Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. Item number 14, status update on council direction given on August 20, 2024 regarding administrative fee for solid waste recycling and organics collection services, processing, maintenance, and enforcement.
Mayor, Councilmember Uppal, and Mayor Moran requested this item be brought to the council for discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I requested this item at the December 17th, 2024 meeting, and similar to the franchise fee item, I prepared some slides that I'd like to share, if the rest of the council is okay with it, to provide a background, go through all the discussions that have been had, be very clear about what this is and where we're at, and then discuss how we may want to move forward. I will say this one's not going to be as pretty, but let's get into it. So admin fee, Gilton Waste Collection Services. As it was mentioned earlier, there's two separate fees in discussion tonight. There's a franchise fee, which is a 15% fee on all revenues, and then there's an administrative fee. So this admin fee definition, I pulled this verbatim from a staff report that was presented by, I believe, Happy and Anthony. In the past, an administrative fee is a fee that's imposed by the city to be a reasonable estimate of the approximate cost for city personnel to provide a service. So as the city manager mentioned earlier, we have multiple staff members in the city of Livingston who are doing work to process bills and all things related to refuse services, waste collection services. And this administrative fee is the cost that the city pays its staff for providing those services. Some background. So the city has historically charged an administrative fee as required. Obviously, the city needs to pay its staff. However, council may not have even been aware of this. I certainly wasn't until I looked into it. Gilton used to couple this admin fee with their refuse rate. So when residents would see their garbage bill, they were not explicitly aware that they were paying for this admin fee. However, when they would pay their bill in total, a percentage of that the city would keep to pay its staff for providing those services. And in this last negotiation, Gilton decided to actually separate their fee from the city's admin fee. And this is verbatim pulled from the contract with Gilton. This was included in the February 20th, 2024 staff report. You can see a line there, which in different type of font, that says that the city will establish a separate administrative fee for processing solid waste billing. So the actual cost of this fee, this is an estimate that was provided in 2024. Those four components in the top four boxes that will make up the administrative fee, from employee allocations to salaries to maintenance, was estimated to be $530,000 at the time. This was the breakdown per parcel, per month, per resident at the time. So that breaking down into 3,500 accounts, it's $151 per year for each account, which is a $12.63 fee that would be passed on to the residents if it got approved to get to that end. Cost as of today, shout out to Happy for getting me this information. I asked if these numbers were still accurate, and it looks like it's actually gone up. So the total expenditure is actually $588,000, which comes out to about $168.28, and for a monthly charge of $14.02 per account. And so if we decided to pass this on to residents, it would be an increased cost in their bill of $14.02 per month. So what happened with this admin fee? On March 19, 2024, council expressed for the first time discomfort with the admin fee. The mayor pro temp suggested getting into a Prop 218 process because we were increasing rates. On April 16, 2024, the council did not approve the admin fee via resolution, and they provided direction to staff to commence the Prop 218 process. I did want to note that the Prop 218 process was not legally required. However, council felt that it would be in the best interest of the city and its residents to still go through that process. On August 6, 2024, council was given the option to commence the Prop 218 process as prepared by the attorney. During that meeting, the mayor pro temp requested a meeting with staff to ask specific questions and gather more information before commencing the process. On August 20, 2024, 2 weeks later, when this item was brought back, the mayor pro temp expressed frustration over staff not reaching out to request a meeting with him. And the council that night provided explicit direction to continue this item only once the mayor pro temp had that meeting with staff. And it's my understanding that that meeting has not yet taken place, which is why this item never came back. And so during the December 17th meeting, I requested that this item come back. I do feel like not all of these conversations we're having in good faith, and I did want to present that very clearly to council, and it leads to another point that I'd like to present. And so I want to say this now. The purpose of this is to not call out anybody personally, but it's to hold each other accountable as a council. Monica, can you please play the meeting from where it starts here? So this is from the August 6, 20 meeting, and it should load from the timestamp that I included. Are you able to play it?
Awareness Month.
Done appropriately on a time. People weren't protecting the city of Livingston. So it's a good point that you bring up. The fact that it was done in the past for the events is
It's not checking. I have the timestamps on me if you're able to present them on the screen.
Look at the
Is that possible?
whether the city is collecting enough for solid waste.
Again, I do feel this is important to highlight, and you'll see why if we can get it up.
and it's per meeting.
Then that caused that.
Obstacle is not having adequate.
And if we can't get it on the actual screen, just the audio will work as well, since we can hear, and I can give you the exact
since this-
timestamps.
The use form was submitted by the group.
To the city manager, it's done and complained that they were swallowing fees.
That they were brought up in the past, and I will go through the process of seeing who else will collaborate with me, because it doesn't seem that many of my items never got brought to this council.
Anything else?
Do we have, Mr. Mayor, I know textile industries, Foster Farms, are that the only two that have unlimited water set rate in the city? I brought that up to city council a long time ago.
Are we able to
Before
get
I was on
exactly
the
to 118.25?
Who has unlimited water other than textile industries and Foster Farms? Is
Of the
there
video?
Anybody
So
else
for this,
that we're not aware of in the city that?
so for this August 6th meeting, could you please play the clip from
I don't know. I'm not the
118.25 to
engineer, but I'm not sure
118.36?
who in the city would be able to answer that, but maybe if
Sorry,
you forward
I
that
apologize.
in an email question to Mr. Lopez, and then Mr. Lopez can send it out. I think that'll be the best way. This item to be tabled until next meeting for further clarification and additional information. I guess we have no option. So,
I humbly request.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, So, all right, so you have, that's fine. Next,
Thank you.
all right.
And Chris, I will contact you to set up an appointment to meet with staff, okay?
I was just sending the email to Monica to reach out to you, but
Yeah.
that's fine.
All right, thank you.
Monica, can you please pause it
Thank
there?
you.
Did want to point out on the record that the mayor pro temp said he would reach out to staff, and that the staff was in process of preparing an email to the mayor pro temp that they didn't send. And then can you please now go to the next slide from the August 20th meeting? So, an August 20th meeting, and the timestamps are there as well. You can start this from 2:21 to about 2:21:33. Is the clip I wanted to reference?
Because I don't appreciate.
No motions, no direction, then this just,
How about we do away with the franchise fee and incorporate the administrative fee?
And that's precisely why I wanted to
is
meet
this
with
on that
staff.
timestamp from
See if there's
2/21?
alternatives. But unfortunately, that's not the way it worked out the last 2 weeks. Thank you.
Mayor, if I could, I wasn't going to say anything, but since Mayor Pro Tem continues to bring it up,
if fee forward.
my response was, okay, I was just sending the email to Monica to reach out to you, but that's fine. My response was, okay, I was just sending the email to Monica to reach out to you, but that's fine.
That's not what I said. I said,
And I'm happy to
no,
send it to
I
the council.
said, Mr. Lopez, please reach out to me. I'd like to set up a meeting with you and your staff. I said to reach out to me.
Mark, can you go to the next slide,
I'm
please?
sending the video to the council, and the council can just see for what that's worth, because I don't appreciate being told that I was unresponsive.
And can you please start this clip from 2:36:15 of the August 20th meeting? I apologize again to the public. I was late in putting these slides up, and we probably could have accounted for that if I wasn't.
To be clear, I also put that motion forward to move forward, so yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Samra.
Remember, it is after the meeting. If a meeting doesn't happen, it's not coming forward.
Can you
Yes.
pause it right there, Monica? So just to confirm, it was decided there that motion was approved by the council that the meeting would not come back. The item related to a Prop 218 measure for this admin fee would not come back until the mayor pro temp had a meeting with staff. Monica, can you please go to the next slide? Sorry, I can do that. Or can I not? No. I am not. Can you go to the next slide, please? Do you want me to try again from my end? So could you go back to the slide right before this one? So I was not aware that this item was explicitly only going to come back once the mayor pro tem met with staff. And that was brought to my attention recently, started digging into it more. And so I actually asked staff, have we reached out? What is the process of this? And this is what I received. These are all the emails that have been sent to the mayor pro tem since August 20th to schedule this meeting. This is some initial outreach in August from Monica to the mayor pro tem looking to schedule a meeting. This is follow-up in September to get something on the calendar. This is follow-up in October to get something on the calendar. Mind you, this item cannot come back as explicitly given council direction until this meeting takes place. This is December outreach in regards to bringing this item back. And we're now in February, and it's my understanding that this meeting has not taken place. Mr. Lopez or Monica, please correct me if I'm wrong.
That's correct. The meeting has not taken place.
So this item, as council direction was given, could not come back until this meeting took place following the August 20th meeting. And now it's February 4th. It's been damn near 6 months, and I apologize for the language there. This meeting has yet to take place. And this is highly relevant to this item, which I'll get into, because it's bleeding our budget. Just because the residents are not paying this fee out of their garbage bill doesn't mean that the city is not covering this administrative expense. It's coming out of a sanitation fund, as I'll get into. And I wanted to bring this up. I made a comment about accountability earlier. And I'd like to say this to the Mayor Pro Tem. This is nothing personal, no personal attack on you as a person, but the way that I feel that you handled this issue in those clips, one saying that you would reach out to city manager to get a meeting scheduled, and then bashing city manager 2 weeks later for not getting it, and then saying you wanted questions answered and you would schedule a meeting with staff, and now it's been 6 months and this meeting hasn't been taking place. I find that highly unprofessional. I think it's holding our city back, and clearly there's a lack of accountability here. I haven't seen anybody reference it, and I know for any staff member to say that to a council member, I understand why that can be difficult, just given the leadership dynamic that exists, and I don't necessarily expect you to do that. Obviously, we have 15,000 bosses in the city, but nobody's mentioned that, and it's hard to go back and really dig into this unless you're not trying to. This is what I've spent the last 3 days doing. And to me, there's just a complete lack of accountability there. Just a comfort with letting this continue down the road and not have anything move forward. And I made this comment during our reports that feedback from the community was heard about us not holding each other accountable. I believe we're all on the same team here, and it's up to us as a council to hold each other accountable, which is why I wanted to bring this up. We have to move each other forward. We have to have friction with one another, and we can't just sit back idly as these things happen. And now to this comment of a bleeding budget, there's about $45,000 that are coming out of our sanitation fund monthly to cover this expense. The council decided not to pass this over to the residents in March. Staff still need to be paid for doing their jobs. So right now that's coming out of a separate city fund, our sanitation fund, and monthly it's about 45 grand that's coming out to cover. Current balance of this fund is around 600,000, as was relayed to me by staff recently. And so within the next fiscal year, if we don't do anything about this administrative fee, we are going to drain this sanitation fund entirely, and we're going to come back and we're going to say, now how are we going to pay for it? Now we can decide what mechanism we want to use, but to just sit here idly and not do anything about it is very irresponsible. And unless this item was brought back, this funding would have just continued to drain, and we would have came back at whatever point and said, what are we going to do? So I'd like for us to move on that now and not get to that point. We must address this issue. Like it's been mentioned, we can't keep kicking the can down the road, and the money has to come from somewhere. Whether we add it to our bill, whether we try to use some franchise fee funding to alleviate the expense, we can't just walk out of here with this not being paid for. Because as of right now, the way I see it is, unless I requested this item on December 17th, this would not have came back. I mean, we would have been sitting here a year from now saying, what are we going to do? And so I have something that I'll offer, and it may not be popular, and we can discuss how we'd like to take it from here. I don't like the idea of raising rates to our residents. I understand I'm not going to say very well. I have an idea of the socioeconomic condition of our community, and there's no part of me that takes pleasure in raising anybody's bill by $14. But like it's been mentioned, there's a cost of doing business that we just can't avoid. And so the only question I'd ask council is, if we're not going to add this on to the bill, how are we going to pay for this? Because right now we have no concrete plan, and we're just draining city funds. So what I would propose is we just approve some of our franchise fee funding to help alleviate some of these expenses. What I would propose that council do is use whatever we have from that to offset this administrative expense, and whatever the difference is that isn't paid for by the franchise fee, we take that into the garbage bill. Again, there's no part of me that likes raising people's bills. You never want to do that. I know it's a very unpopular thing to do, but I think we have a responsibility to manage the city. Unless we can identify another mechanism, we have to pay from the source, is my opinion. I'd rather be the guy that, made a financially responsible decision than was too scared because I was afraid of what the community was going to say after. And at this point in time, pending staff and or council's opinions, I think that's the best way to move forward. So I know that was super long. And again, to the Mayor Pro Tem, nothing personal. I just don't feel like this was handled professionally by any means. And we can't allow, as a council, allow that to continue moving forward. So curious to hear anybody's thoughts, and I'll let you guys take it from there.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
Councilmember Uppal, in a way, you are correct what you said, but do you, and I'm not going to say this in open meeting because I know legal is going to jump all over me, but you also know the other pending issues. You notice I had to abstain from one of the items. I'll be more than happy to talk with you why, with the attorney present if you wish, but I'm not going to talk about this in open meeting. It's easy for you to say, why didn't you? But you don't know the other side of it. You know? So I would say I'd be more than happy to sit with you, with the attorney, and we'll be able to more than happy to do that. And I think you'll have a better understanding of what happened.
I think that's completely fair. You have, obviously, this was very, like, I called out your past actions. You have every right to defend them. If you and the attorney are comfortable with that, I'm more than happy to have that conversation. I'd still say it's at least worth an email to say there's reasons why this can't be done. And to the other point, there was no other action taken to move this item forward, even if it wasn't that meeting with staff. Like, if there are legitimate reasons preventing it from taking place, I don't know your perspective, don't know the situation. I completely understand that point. However, council has been very comfortable with not doing anything about this. And again, there was no action taken to move this forward. And I still take very, very strong distaste with that.
Well, I would too, but it's unfair in a way when you're only looking at half of the story, not the other half. You and I never had any discussion of why you didn't have the meeting. You never did. And maybe should have had that discussion. Hey, is there a reason why you didn't have that meeting? You know, so we will have a discussion and we can get with and it needs to be you, me, and the attorney, and nobody else. Because I wouldn't feel comfortable any other way.
I'm okay with that.
Okay?
The attorney's down for that, yeah?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I said I'm okay with that as long as the attorney's good with that as well.
Yeah, we will.
I would say as long as the majority of the council wishes me to attend that meeting, I will.
Yes.
Now, moving forward, obviously this still needs direction. Again, we are bleeding $45,000 from our sanitation fund monthly. And if we do not identify another funding mechanism, or at least set a plan forward, in the next fiscal year, this funding will drain in its entirety, and we will then come back and try to figure something else out. So I had proposed something to council. Whether or not you agree with it, I'd be curious to know how you'd like to move forward on the item.
With Mr. Mayor, through you, of course, with the franchise fee coming back into the solid waste, we can't look at administrative fees, see what the actual markup is going to be, because there will be some offset from the franchise fees coming into the solid waste. So that number will not be what you said is, because that number didn't take into account that how much is coming into the solid waste. You're looking at what the total money is in the solid waste, what the charges are. With that money coming in, it's going to offset a lot of those administrative charges. So numbers will be entirely different.
I'm okay with taking a look at that, getting some final numbers before setting
Yeah.
a very clear direction. I'm curious to hear what else council thinks.
So, what, I'm speechless. But it's, I think it's a conversation that was long overdue, and it's unfortunate that this conversation didn't happen before. And part of the conversation that was one of the points that was brought up earlier, and the same conversation that we discussed before, and we mentioned, was that roughly about $50,000 was not being collected, and this is what's happening now. Eventually, in a year, it was over $500,000, close to $600,000. And one thing for sure, once again, I said it earlier, If we need to have a service that needs to be provided to our customers, to our residents, someone has to pay it. And even if we say that the city, if council decides and says, okay, city, we're going to pay for it, but in reality, who's paying for it? The residents. Because who are we collecting money from? From the residents. It just means that we're just moving money around and we're just making it look like we're, we're not charging an additional fee, but at the end of the day, the one that ends up suffering and still paying for it is us, the residents. So, it's, and, I can only assume potentially, there's different reasons of, why certain things are being done, just to, because politically, they're probably not the most popular thing to do. But if we are here on this dais being elected, we should not, once someone is worried about what their political status is, how is that going to be affected, then you're in the wrong position. You shouldn't be worried about whether or not it's going to be popular or unpopular and whether or not you're going to be elected or reelected or not elected next time around because you made, you raised the cost by $6, then you're in the wrong position. Then you're not doing what is best for the community, for the majority of the community. We're never going to have 100% agreement on anything. But if we ever have 100% agreement on anything, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And that's why we're here. We were elected to make the tough decisions for 15,000 people out there. And this was and is one of those tough decisions. And if whatever we do becomes unpopular, then let it be. Then you did the right thing at that time, and that's it. I'm glad we're having this conversation, and I will ask for additional comments, recommendations from the council before I go out for public comments.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment real quick?
Yes, go ahead.
Before we go out to public comment, they're both here tonight, and obviously the item's coming up next. I would be curious to know what our two potential candidates think of this item. I know they both read a lot. Obviously, both sat on council. They were here when this was last discussed. And so, yeah, just curious to hear if you're willing to come up and speak, what you think about what council should do about this item, and if you were sitting on the council tonight voting on this, how you might take that.
So at this time, I will go out for public comment. Let me go out to someone on the phone. Is there anyone on the phone? Hearing none, come back to the chamber at 10:42. Public comment in the chamber.
Thank you, Councilmember Uppal. I was planning on coming up to address this item because seeing it on this perspective, and I watched that video that night in regards to what took place. I do believe that the conversation went that the administrator fee has always been a part of the city billing. But we had our city manager and our attorney that made it more transparent for the public to understand that they have always been paying it. So whether it's being paid through different sources of funding, the residents in the long run are paying that bill. Whether it's coming from the general fund, which I believe it's happening now, the residents are still paying that bill. So trying to figure out what the conversation would have been between Pro Tem and yourself, that it has to involve the city attorney. I'm not sure if the conversation is going to be part of addressing the admin fee, or is this a battle? Are you wanting a mediator to hash this out? because I'm not comfortable seeing it that way, of paying a city attorney to have an item settled that can't be discussed in full transparency. So I'm not sure what you had or what Mayor Pro Tem has wanted the request of the city attorney to be present for, when the two of you might be able to discuss it, because I was lost in that. I don't know if you're discussing an admin fee or if you guys are just wanting to hash that out. Because that night, I remember it, we were both there. It was very, you in fact came out from the audience with that same video, as well as city manager to play it. And anyways, the admin fee, someone is going to be paying it, whether it's through the general fund as it is now, but we've always been paying it. The residents, that cost is at the end is paid by us. All of those that pay the utility bill for each parcel. That you had asked.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber? I'm not sure if Mr. Wallace wants to come up or anybody else. Yes, please step forward. State your name for the record.
Hi, my name's Parwinder Uppal. I just wanted to clarify, historically, when this admin fee has been administered and it's been grouped in with the Gilton fee, non-disclosed to the public, they probably were unaware of it. Was that being paid by residents just in their monthly bill, not through some sort of city fund? Right, that's what I thought. So if that's the case, I don't understand why the admin fee is now being subsidized by the city in causing this issue in the first place. If it has always been paid by consumers, if it's simply because now they're seeing the words that it's an administrative fee, but it's the exact same fee that they've always been paying, that doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to now all of a sudden pick up that cost and put it on the city. I mean, if we can afford it and we're rolling in dough, I mean, that's fine. I guess you can take that cost away from the consumer. But if that's not the case and it's causing problems for our funds and trying to figure out how to allocate this, and we're bleeding $45,000 from a fund that shouldn't be paying for it, which is going to go dry soon enough, and we got to then solve that problem again. I don't really understand why that cost was removed from customers. This problem could have probably been avoided, it seems to me, if it was never removed in the first place. Because now, if that cost is just directed right back onto consumers, now it's gonna look like an additional fee is being thrown onto them, when it could have and should have and has always been there in the first place. So unless I'm missing something there, please, any of you feel free to provide some sort of context there. But it seems to me that it was a fee that has always been there, was removed for reasons that are beyond my understanding, and is now causing us fiscal issues, and is going to look like it's causing consumers fiscal issues if it's sent back to the residents of Livingston. Thanks.
Thank you. Is there any additional comments in the chamber in regards to this item? Okay, seeing none, I'm closing the public comments at 10:48, bringing it back to the dais. So legal, I do have a question now that I was just reflecting on the request to have Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Uppal have a meeting by two council members, because this item was already in open session, and now they're going to have potentially a conversation about this same item, and then then this has to be brought back to open session, and that information has to be provided to the rest of the council, or not?
The discussion would be why the meeting never took place, not about anything on these items.
Okay, so if it's, okay. So then would that information would have to be disclosed in open session to the rest of the council? to make sure that Brown Act is not violated? Because then otherwise they're having their own private conversations when this item was already discussed in open session.
What I will say is that I don't believe my presence is necessary for that conversation, which is why I said if a majority of the council would like me to attend, I will, because I don't want to bill the city for a private conversation between Councilmember Uppal and the Mayor Pro Tem relating to his reasons for not meeting or for the meeting not taking place. I can attend that meeting. It's not, if it's not related to the franchise fee itself, meaning the substance of what is going to be discussed by the council and how decisions are made, then it's not a Brown Act issue. If they're just talking about other issues outside of an action that's pending before the city, if it goes into areas that would relate to actions that are pending before the council or could become pending before the council, then that would be a Brown Act concern.
And then also, so I'm just thinking, if this meeting or this concern or the request to have this meeting is just to explain or share the reason or why Mayor Pro Tem never had a meeting with staff, but staff is not only Mr. Lopez. Staff is Anthony, is engineering, is building, is Monica, is everybody else. So if the main reason was to not have a meeting with Mr. Lopez, that meeting could always have happened without Mr. Lopez being present. So, and then that way we didn't have to wait 6 months until now. And probably that's not going to make a difference, even after your meeting, if what I'm thinking that is just because of the reason why you didn't want to meet with Mr. Lopez. And then even if any one of us had an issue with Mr. Lopez, we could always request it to have another staff member present as a third party, as a third person in that meeting, just to, if there was a concern of having to meet with anyone that I'm not getting along with, or so I really don't see what change that meeting would potentially make for this item now, but I'll leave it up to the majority of the council or request if there's a motion to continue this item, but then again, it's another month is going to be another $45,000.
Mr. Mayor, may I comment?
Yes. Go ahead.
So in all fairness to the Mayor Pro Tem, obviously I called him out. I feel like he has every right to respond to me as he needs to. Whether or not the attorney needs to be present or the council would like for that to be the case, I think on my end it's not fair for me to have a say in that, because just again, as an individual, I feel like he has every right to call me out. On this item, to respond to me, I'm sorry. On this item specifically, I would like us, I don't want to table it entirely and just wait for a meeting whether or not it happens. I would like for us to at least discuss what we think about moving forward and hopefully provide some very clear direction on how we'd like to move forward. As I proposed earlier, we just balanced our general fund deficit with franchise fee funds, and we dedicated a portion of that to go into solid waste for precisely this purpose. We explicitly mentioned the administrative fee during that discussion, and that we could use that funding to offset the administrative fee. What I propose that the council do is dedicate that excess franchise fee funding into this administrative expense, figure out exactly how much the difference is between what we're offsetting and what's still left to pay. And then from that point, I don't know if we necessarily have to increase the rate that much every month. I'm actually in favor of a phased approach, potentially $2 at a time, $1 at a time. I am certainly in favor of passing this into the bill as it's always been. There's a cost of doing business, and as much as the community obviously would not see their bill go up, I think they're smart enough to understand that there's a cost of doing business and that we legally are not allowed to profit from that, nor which are we doing. And so if council is in favor of a phased approach, potentially $1 at a time, $2 at a time, whether it's every month, 2 months, quarterly. I'm open to discussing what that could look like. So at least it's not a very immediate and stressful burden on the residents. And it also gives us time to better communicate that, have those conversations, and folks to be ready for the rate increases that may occur.
Council, anything else? So, once again, I have always been of the idea that it would be not adequate to just continue waiting until we have to raise the fees, the cost to the consumer, all a big chunk of money all at once, now we have funding that is going to dry out pretty soon. And, and then again, at the end of the day, the ones that are going to suffer is going to be the residents, because now they have to pay up to create those savings again. And once again, it goes back to kicking the can down the road. That's what it is, Whether this was not addressed before or not, I mean, that's history in a way, but now we have it before us, and we have to come up with a plan. Phasing it out, I mean, is better than doing nothing, even if it's $2, $3, because even if we raise it, if we do phases and raise it $1 a month, I'm not sure if there's going to be like additional staff time that is going to be required to do that. Instead of saying, okay, let's just raise it $3 now, and $3 in 6 months, and $3 in 9 months, and so on. If that makes any sense, instead of $1 every month, because at the end of the day, it's still going to be the same amount of money. We still need to cover the cost. We might not be paying for it, right? Or the residents, it's just a lie, really. I mean, we're just lying to the people and saying, you're not paying for it. Well, you are paying for it because you are the ones that gave the city the money. I mean, so that's just my thought at this point. Council, anything else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, go ahead.
I do like the idea of what Japjeet said, phasing it in $1 to $2, $3 or whatever, but I would like to see it written on paper or a little presentation if we can, and I'm not opposed to that.
Can we, go ahead, Mr. Santos.
Thank you. I think one method to get council, I think, in heading in the direction would be potentially a motion giving staff direction to bring this item back at the next council meeting with the information that you requested, meaning how much is generated from the franchise fee, how much the actual costs are, administrative fee costs, what the difference is once you supplement or offset the admin fee with the franchise fee, and then at that time a discussion could be had on the phase approach, whether it's a monthly, a quarterly, or a yearly approach, however council wants to do that. But I think that would be the legally prudent approach to address this issue.
Thank you, Roy. Councilmember, I think one of the things that came to my mind, barring any sort of changes on the expenditure side is going to be, I think, what Happy put out, which was $600,000. And so that expenditure is going to remain the same. If I'm hearing you and Councilmember Roth correctly, I think one of the things that may make sense for Happy to maybe take some notes on is that we do the transfer that we had talked about earlier with the balance of the franchise fee going back into the solid waste fund. And then we potentially look at, and this is where Happy would have to do some financial maneuvering, is if we wanted to have a phased-in approach. Let's say it was $1, $2, whatever it is. The gentleman raised a really good point that, we left the genie out of the bottle. So any sort of new fee at this point is going to be problematic to the community and to the residents. So in order to accomplish what I think you're getting at is what type of phase-in approach that Happy could provide. Maybe it's a $1 a month over, I don't know, a couple months, $2 a month every couple months, to get us to the point where you're made whole over the course of a certain amount of time. You would probably need to utilize a continued amount of reserves up until you build up to that point, because your expenditure level is going to continue the same. So Happy, if Happy is able to provide a couple of those options, phasing in, let's say, a couple dollar increase over the course of, every few months or so, some options that the council can say, okay, what's $2 a month for, the first, I don't know, every quarter up until you get to a certain dollar amount, and then utilizing the difference with reserves until you get up to that full dollar amount. If the council directed those types of scenarios, I'm certain that Happy could provide a couple options to the council that gets to what Roy said about giving some council direction after you've seen some options. Does that make sense to the council here?
Makes a lot of sense.
I would just also add one other thing. In order to approve the admin fee itself has to be approved by council.
Sure.
Right, so that, just a kind of a reminder, the admin fee was never approved. So when Anthony brought all those materials, we would need to bring those materials back to council that lays out the reasonable estimate of the cost of the service, and that fee would have to be approved by council, and then the mitigation measures can then be approved by council. So it's kind of a two-step process. It can all be done in the same night, but the first step would have to be the approval of the admin fee in order to get to that next step, because it has to be approved by resolution.
Thank you.
So Happy, are you good with the direction and the ideas and the options? Okay, perfect.
And so, one question, how long before that could be done and be brought back? I mean, in a magical world, what would be the earliest that could be brought back? Because the sooner we can address this issue, the better, the way we're...
I don't know your capacity, so I'll leave that up to you. I would just say that the request would be as soon as possible. Obviously, we're having city manager turnover, which is not going to help with all of staff's time. Just again, $45,000 bleeding every month. We have to be mindful of that. So just whatever you got as soon as you can, and then we'll take it from there.
So Happy, if it works, or Councilmember, if it works for the council, the latest would be the second meeting in March. If the staff can do it before March, great. I think to your point, though, every month that goes by, you're going to have to make up with that with either additional reserves or a larger increase, to residents. And then with what Roy said about the timing of this, obviously getting council direction, having staff bringing back stuff, that's going to take time. So if Happy's good with a second meeting in March at the latest, if you can do first meeting in March, great. If not, deadline, second meeting in March.
Thank you. Mr. Santos, are we going to need to have any formal motion for any of this?
Direction is okay, but if council wants to make a motion, you can. But I think staff has the direction.
Okay. Before we move on from this item, I do want to just comment. I know I just opened Pandora's box. I'm well aware of that. And there's going to be a lot of people that are happy with the way that I went about this, and a lot of people that are going to be super frustrated. And I thought about this a lot before, and I decided I was going to go the way I did. I want to make it very clear to council. Accountability is very important to me among us, right? I'm well aware that what I just presented is very likely and can very well end up coming right back to me. And honestly, I'm glad that that's the case, because it forces me to step up and do my job the right way. And I hope that you all feel that whether or not you agree with the way I went about this, I am going to be super aggressive about making sure that we're moving in the right direction amongst each other. Again, I think it's up to us to hold each other accountable. And I ask that you do the same of me to move this city forward. I will never reject critical criticism as long as it's coming from a place of professionalism and respect. And I do want to say one thing to the staff and to the public as well. I don't know the details as well as anybody might. I'm still learning the history. things have been very ugly at this dais. Lack of accountability. Council members always haven't been open to being questioned or criticized, and they've taken drastic action if that's ever happened to them. If you ever feel like you need to tell me something, if you think I'm not doing my job well, you think I could be doing something better, I didn't think through something the way I should have, you are always more than welcome to come up to me individually and let me know. I will never, ever respond in a retaliatory fashion to anybody that has honest, critical, constructive feedback, good or bad. And I want to make that very clear. And if there's ever a situation where you feel that way about me or another council member and you feel like you don't have anybody to go to, assuming legal means are met, you are more than welcome to have that conversation with me. I really want that to be the standard going forward. I don't think our standards have been good enough in the past, and so we're facing so many issues with development or infrastructure, name whichever one you want. And so I'm going to work to hold you guys accountable. I ask that you do the same of me, and that we move the city where it needs to go.
And so, well, thank you for that. And then, but before we move from this item, I think there was another question, and I'm not sure if it was answered or not, in regards to direction for that meeting that you guys want to have, whether or not a legal, whether or not a majority of council is okay to have legal present. My thought is, I think it would be beneficial to make sure no one gets in trouble to have legal present. And then again, but I think it would be too much to ask, is like, because I know he comes from Fresno and he needs gas money. It's not cheap.
It could be a phone conference, doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in person.
Okay, so, but from my perspective, I think it would be beneficial to have legal be part of the conversation. But, I'm also trying to be mindful of cost, but then again, it could be an investment in the future of the city of Livingston. So I'm okay with that. And I would recommend it.
Again, like I mentioned earlier, I think the mayor pro tem has every right to represent his perspective as he feels needed. And I also don't want to pay for Roy's gas money, so if conference call is fine, I'm more than happy to have that conversation.
I'm good with that too.
All right, so no gas money, just, conference call. Okay, all right. Next, we have item number 15, consideration of a resolution appointing a